Okay, so here's another quick template. For those of you who have been following some of my earlier templates, you'll remember I created a leaf bag or a leaf purse inspired. My daughter asked for it, so I did that. And so I got thinking, and it's become pretty popular. So I started thinking about what are leaf type things I can do, like a leaf corset or a leaf belt. So the easiest one that I was going to do first was a leaf belt. And so there's the same maple leaves from the leaf purse. You'll recognize the design from that purse. If you haven't seen it yet, you should check it out. And I'll put a picture here while I'm talking so you can see it. But so I started thinking about the leaf purse, or leaf belt, and how it would work. And here's some of the pieces. There's a couple of the smaller. There's these two, and then there's another small one for the right, and then a small one for the left. And you'll see the finished product here in a second. But I got to think about how that would work with some swing clasps in the front, almost like a corset front, but definitely still a belt. So here what I ended up using was this kind of a russet brown color, and it's fairly stiff. Stiff temper, and it's 8 to 9 ounces, maybe 10. It's pretty thick and pretty stiff. So that's why I decided to use, because I wanted a belt and almost that corset temper where it's fairly stiff around the waist. And so here, let me readjust this. Hold on. Yeah, so here's the finished product. You see that, so I used that leather I was talking about earlier to cut out the shape, and then there's the smaller pieces I was telling you about. They're in the template. So I have the swing clasps. They're in the middle. I have this right here, and I have a 1-inch wide belt that comes over to. I use D-ring, but you could use an O-ring. The D-ring is what I had on hand. But I would use the O-ring if I were to do this again. Small belt punch here on this end, and then the same thing here, 1 inch, and then with the buckle, 1-inch buckle here on this end. Again, the D-ring. All of these I used. Let's see here. I used saddle soap to go from this color, this kind of russet color, to this darker brown, and I just use that to clean it off and make it a nice supple. And then I used, after I beveled the edges a little bit, I used the black toconol on this, and you can see here that just darkened the edges a bit, and here too, just darken the edges so it's burnished. But I wanted to give it that a little bit darker color along the edge, so it can kind of give a little bit more texture, a little bit more color to it. Also, and this part isn't on the template, but I punched after I riveted the top to the bottom. I stitched along these grooves, and for the grooves, let me show you what I used. I used one of these groovers to just go in and just make those lines. And I talked to the girl at Tandy today looking for something a little bit better, but really couldn't find anything, and maybe I just didn't look hard enough. But yeah, so I used the groover to make these grooves, and then use the saddle soap to get in there and really get into those grooves and kind of make it a little bit softer. And then the black toconol for the edges to burnish. So there it is. Oh yeah, and then the stitching. Stitching is optional. If you want to, you can just glue it on this back side. I stitched it because I thought it was going to look cool, and maybe I'll put those in the pattern just as optional. But what's going to dictate the waist size, if you need to make the buckle And this end longer, feel free to make this longer, or if you need to make, for a smaller waist, if you need to make this piece shorter, with the rivet on the backside there, is 8.5, and this is 8.5 inches long. So if you need to shorten this by, a couple inches, make sure you do it for both pieces so that's even. And I will get some glamour shots of this, and hopefully get my daughter to put it on and model it. see what she thinks. All right. If you have any questions, please let me know, and enjoy the pattern.